All right, let's go. It's time for another episode of the Musing Panda live stream where we talk all about Warmachine and Hordes. This week we have a very, very special show. We're going to be talking all about narrative events, and we're joined by Paul Wysocki. I might have said that wrong. Wysocki. Paul, how do you say your last name?
It's Wysocki. You got it right. You're good.
Wysocki. That's amazing. Probably better known as Erica Bev's brother. He's the one that set up all the narrative events at Nova and has done so much for the community. Like, I'm super excited to have you on the show to talk all about narrative. We're going to go really deep on it. We're going to talk about what makes a good narrative event. I think you've learned a lot over the last 3 years. And I think by all reports, the narrative event at this year's Nova went off very, very well. A lot of positive feedback. So you're going to get a lot of kudos on this show because that's how we roll. Also joining me is the one and only, I guess I've been told he's not the one and only, the one of many, Alex Cosmas. Alex as always joins us every week. He's a fantastic dude. He is my Cosma, full stop, no negotiation. I do not negotiate with terrorists. All right. So you guys cannot steal Cosma from me. That's just not happening.
just got to let Jay Beatnik know. Hello. And it's great to make your acquaintance, Paul.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to go talk about narrative. Thanks for the kudos, all the stuff that we've done for the past couple of years. It's a combined effort, but I'm happy to go and share any knowledge or any things, the do's and do nots of all the lessons learned that we've had.
Yeah, you're going to talk to us about this strange concept called fun. Am I saying that right? Is this? I've never had this playing Warmachine. What is this concept, and why do you like to bring it to people?
Yeah, it's wacky. Well, I mean, so for me personally, Warmachine was always a fun game to play. Though doing the steamrollers over and over and over again kind of felt stale, at least just for me personally. And even when we would play through the scenarios, I know that back in Mark III, it's like, what is this arbitrary circle that I'm fighting over? Like, why do I care about this rectangle? And I always wanted there to be a little bit more of a story behind like why my army is fighting the other person's army. And then when we started coming out with the Mark IV scenarios, at least the steamrollers, they had little objective pieces that did things. I was just really excited with that change. And then when they started bringing the actual narrative scenarios into the application, that was also a delight to be able to go and play as well. I know Oblivion did their campaign. I never had the opportunity to actually play through Oblivion, though.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been playing Warmachine, out of curiosity?
So if I want to do like the technical answer, I played 2 games in Mark 1 back when I was, I think, a freshman in high school. My sister picked up Circle and she showed me Legion of Everblight, and I was like a total dork, thought dragons were really neat. So I played 1 game with the battle box, and then I spent maybe $35-$45 on the swordsman, and I realized like, oh my gosh, I have no ability to even play or finance this game at all. So that died quickly, but I really picked it up in Mark III back in 2017 after Ghost Fleet, like to date it, like when Ghost Fleet was like the big bad boogeyman at the time. And I picked up Retribution, played them for the whole entire duration of Mark III, picked up a Scorn army for a little bit to dabble with them, but I really played Retribution all the way up until Mark IV, where I picked up Orgoth.
Nice. Yeah, I was just gonna say there was a brief glorious window at the start of Mark I, both when the original tournament packet came out introducing us to the concept of 2 lists and stuff. Before it was called Steamroller, it was called Hacksaw.
Oh,
he was the guy who was developing it.
Well, speaking of Hacksaw, I actually just want to, if you don't mind, Paul, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a personal question that you certainly don't have to answer. But one thing that I've noticed about Erica and yourself both is you both give so much to the community very selflessly. Do you think that that's just a function of how you were raised, or just being around each other? Because it's pretty unusual to have people who give as freely as both you and your sister do, just to make the community better. I'm kind of curious to hear a little bit about that.
So I think there's a lot of different parts to that. I think definitely both her and I, our upbringing definitely helped out. We had very amazing parents that were able to go and show us the very good benefits of giving. But not only that, but we've just had really good role models and just people who held up. I want to say like I don't know like the proper term of it. Ambassadors. Yeah, there we go. Like they were ambassadors for the game. So we had people like Seth, where we went to the Boker Brawl and we saw about how much he gave, and he did so much for all. You pay $50 for a day, but then you walk away with over $100 worth of models, right? And being able to do to do that for so many players, it really set the tone of like what kind of experience we've always wanted to go do. We never had the interest of like trying to seek like a personal glory kind of thing. I feel like that's a trap that I guess like maybe some community leaders or content people, whatever, you get victimized by the trap of that. So we've always had a goal of focusing on the people first, because what we find is that focusing on the people usually makes it a better time for all of us. I remember Seth always saying a rising tide raises all ships, and that's really how we end up feeling about what we've done. So whether if it's running our events, helping out with the community finder to go help people go and get the games in, and whatever we have in our power that we're able to go do, it just feels better for everybody else, and we reap that benefit because more people are playing, we get more games in.
You know what's funny about that is what pays dividends as an organizer or a people person is kind of the same thing that pays dividends as a competitive player. Because if you're chasing glory, or if you're chasing, whatever, like anything that's like wrapped up with your ego, it's never really going to cohere. But if it's about the thing outside of you, whether that be, playing excellently and being the kind of person who's capable of going X and O at a big event, or, whether it's being the kind of person that has, 60 to 100 to 150 plus people show up and every single one of them have a great time, like, the reward is in accomplishing the thing itself. And, the reputation is something that follows out of that. I have made myself servant to, the quality of my game, or I have made myself servant to my community around me really thriving.
What I also find with it is that the more you give, you attract good people around you. What I found is that I've not ever had bad interactions with a lot of the people that I played with or met at a conventions or what have you, or even talking to people online. Everybody that has been cordial, kind, and doesn't seem to like have like some hidden agenda or anything like that. It's just we want to all help out everybody to make sure it's the best time that you're able to go and spend with people who really do care about you. And I love the child, by the way. How's your girl? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is Aria. I just wanted to introduce her to everybody. I haven't really shown her on camera yet, but she happens to be up now. Usually she's in bed by 8. So and yes, she does look a lot like me. So anyway, sorry to sidetrack everything, everybody, but Alex is always showing off his cat, and I think this is way better. Just saying.
No, yeah, I think you're winning that game, John.
And they're tax deductible too, so I mean, you have that going for you as well.
yeah. The tax deduction does not cover the costs, but it's not really having children is not a financial decision. So anyway, one of the things I think is really interesting about what you said there, Paul, is how you talk about what you get out of the game, and it sounds to me like you just have a servant's heart. And it makes you feel good when people have a good time. So can you tell, maybe just share with us how you got started building narrative events, and what was the impetus? Like, what was the original, like, aha, I need to do this. This would be cool.
So I think for the whole thing with narrative was Nova 22 into 23. So for background, I don't know if you've heard the story, but when Erica, Andy, and I did Nova 22, we did the team event. They I think played like the IG qualifier as well. And when we got done, they got back. They mentioned that like, hey, we might be, or we are going to be running Nova 23 in the future. Is this something that we're interested in doing, and how do we, if we're interested, like, how do we make it big? How do we make it better? So one of the things I pitched was that, okay, I'd like to run a narrative. I think that'd be something different because we do all the steamrollers, we do all the wacky, like the serious tournaments, right? But I mean, like, let's go get something for more of our casual players, or a casual experience. Because if you say casual steamroller, yeah, it might be casual, it won't be the Shark Tank, but you might still have some people that might go in there and be a little bit more competent than other players. You know what I mean? Like, if I want to just sit at the kitchen table and chuck dice at you and not really think about what I'm doing, versus like, oh, you're actually measuring out my threat ranges and taking this a little bit more seriously. So I ended up taking over the narrative, but I kind of had no place to start. And I mean, when it came to it, it was a copy everybody else's homework for that. So, but the homework that I copied was actually the 40K guys in their narrative. And what they did was, for that year, was something like, there was like a couple different planets, and there was different missions on the planets, and whatever you did in those missions would affect the future missions that would happen or affect another planet. So like one of them was like a civilian rescue. So we literally just took that one and just, Iron Kings it up. So that way it actually worked. But yeah, like that's kind of like how it fell into my hands, and all the other years that came after that.
That's really addressing like one of the great problems of Warmachine is by the nature of the game. It is hard to play casually, because it's almost a Chessex type environment, where it's very tightly structured. The spacing matters a great deal. It's a hard game to like throw back beers and have a chill time with. And particularly I think you can take this very tightly wired rule set, and introduce, goals beyond, just like winning in the conventional sense. Like, our goal here is to have an experience.
I remember, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please go ahead.
No, yeah, I agree with that, especially because I don't know, JD has like the same thing with me, but like being a dad, like I don't get a lot of table time anymore. And when I show up to our games, one of the reasons why I kind of am a little bit more hesitant about playing is that I don't keep up with the rules. I don't keep up with all the new armies. Like I when we did one of our tests for the narrative, it was my first time seeing Necrophatorium on the table. I'm like, I don't know what any of these guys do. And when presented, like, how do I want to go and spend my evening? It's like, yeah, I'll go and hang out with the friends, but I'd rather go and hang out with the friends and drink a beer as opposed to playing the game and knowing that it's not going to be a good time. And that's just like a personal thing for me. I'm not saying that's for everyone, but that's what I like about the narrative style, because it's going to lend itself to the more whimsical and the more like, we're not going to be really super serious about this. Even the narratives in like the ones that are in the application, you can kind of not be really serious with them as well. Like you can, but then it might just feel like a very one-sided steamroller game at that point.
Right.
One of the great things about narrative events, well, a couple things. Number one, like Warmachine is just cool. Steam-powered jacks are awesome. Big dinosaurs and monsters are awesome. Warcasters are amazing. So you have this like very immersive world that you can kind of play around in, which I think is pretty cool. And the other thing that's great about it is like, it's so inclusive. Anybody can go have fun at a narrative event. Like anyone, it doesn't matter. It could be your first game of Warmachine. We just say, hey, just roll dice, walk your guys forward, and enjoy the stories that are created. Right? It's kind of like playing a D&D campaign or playing, like a D&D campaign. Now, it can be competitive. Like there are some players that are just like big numbers go zoom. But that's not the most fun. The most fun is when you have a campaign that tells a compelling story that you feel like you lived. And I think that's what probably makes a good narrative event too. What say you, Paul?
So sorry, like my wife like just walked in, like asked me a question. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
That's okay. You got sidetracked. I was just asking. I was saying one of the things that makes for a great D&D campaign is getting the opportunity to live a really cool story that you felt like you're a part of, or that you're an actor in. And then a narrative campaign can be exactly the same kind of like experience that you're going for, which is that really killer D&D campaign, except that it's in, you know, the world of the Iron Kingdoms with big steam powered jacks and, you know, some really, really memorable characters. I mean, you know, I think you should do a narrative event next year and have the butcher be center to it. Like that'd be cool as heck.
So that being said, yeah, because like again, when you go think about like your steamroller games, it's a random force versus a random force. You don't know what the overall all story is, unless if you're like keeping up with the lore in the application, which you know, so for some people they're better at others, or they'll read every single thing, or it's like I only care about the stuff that's like for my faction or what have you. But it's been really delightful to be able to create scenarios or play scenarios in like relevant times so that people are actually being impactful or giving the illusion of being impactful. What I will say though, and I was thinking about this earlier, was that what's nice about the narratives is even our competitive players, we'll have some that will play, but they'll really lean into the more narrative aspects. Like I know I could end up being, you know, cutthroaty in this, but I'd rather go and have a fun time or make sure that everybody is enjoying themselves. And that's another enjoyment, because you see another side of players that you don't yet, I wouldn't say you wouldn't expect to see, but if you don't know them that well, you would not expect to see it. And it's just been a delight to see some of these like, you know, WTC players just basically playing D&D and like, you know, screwing with the DM like the whole entire, it's like, why are you making my life harder? Like what is it's no different.
Yeah, I heard Eric Akers was getting up to some shenanigans at Nova. And like I started jokingly calling him the broken typewriter of Warmachine, because all he does is put W's on sheets. But you know, that was a really cool story to hear, is like Eric letting his hair down and like just having fun with the game dynamic and having fun with the people at the table and having fun with the story.
And you're interacting with people you don't normally interact with, because again, if you go look at the participants in narratives, I mean, most of the time it's not the people that are in the IG qualifiers. So it's these individuals that are like, might be like, I just dug up my models, I was here for the weekend, or you know, I'm here for these other events, but I decided to go and play this out. So then you get to just, you know, meet these really cool and enthusiastic individuals that love the game.
So we're gonna get.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Alex. We're going to get into the technical details, but Emerald Dragon has a quick question for you, Paul.
Yeah.
He just asked, like, what are your opinions on army point sizes for narrative events? Do you want to keep it similar to competitive or make them lower to allow easier entry?
I hate to say this, but it depends. It depends on what you're going for. So I find that a really good sweet spot is like 50. 50s is nice because it will lend itself to newer players who don't have a full army, so they can at least play with less stuff. And then for some, sorry, I got to let my cat out because he might like use the bathroom a little bit.
I can relate.
I'm like,
I
want an issue with that. All right. What was that? Yeah, so it depends. I know for our first narrative back in 23, it was escalating. So it was like a 50, a 75, and it was going to go end with a 100-point army. But at the end, we ad hoc the decision to say, do we want to do like a team event? And we did a team, like a 3v3, and that we decided to bump it back down to 50 just because it makes things a lot more manageable and people a little bit more, I won't say careful with their resources, but it's a lot less things for people to track. The turns are definitely quicker as well, because when you have all these people playing at the same time, it's a lot easier to work with a smaller pool of models as opposed to trying to do your 12-minute turn of like, I got to move all these guys and do all these activations and stuff. So there's a lot of things to go and think about. I mean, if you go take a look at the narratives in the Warmachine app, there's 100-point scenarios in there that are designed to be played that way. But if you're trying to do like a team event or like a multiple people playing at the same time, like 50, I would say 50 is probably the best way to go.
Mm-hmm.
I like 50 because
it's
enough. John. It's enough points to get a variety of models and do some cool stuff. But like you said, it's also very easy to keep it very manageable. And again, that inclusivity, right? Like if I could, I would have new players play narrative events just because I think they would have fun. And the truth is, we need the lifeblood of the game is getting new players involved in the game.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why we're doing the show is we just want to kind of encourage people and give them the tools maybe to start building their own narrative events, or maybe even Paul, are you willing to share some of your outlines and that kind of stuff with the community so they can run some of your events?
You already asked them, and I already provided this is the people's primers now at this point. They can have it. It's fine. It's all right.
Sorry. Yeah, I asked you, but I didn't ask you on the stream. So
No,
people
it's
would
okay.
know.
Yeah. We were talking off the side. I grabbed all the primers. You're gonna see like an evolution of them where it's like I put in a lot of effort, and much like the way of the DM, you just put in less and less effort because you realize less and less things are used. And
Mhm.
when it comes to your scenarios, like you pretty much make up like 80% of it day of. So yeah, I'm happy to share all the resources that I got.
That's fantastic. All right, Alex, where do you want to start? Where, like, do we want to talk about building these events or the tables? Because I think the train actually is a living part of this.
Yeah. There's a lot of dimensions to this. I mean, because, you know, not only are you meeting new people at narrative events and often people you wouldn't have otherwise met, but you're meeting people in a new context too. You know, like you can know Eric Akers is one of the most devastating players on the planet, but like I said, you almost never get to see him with his hair down and dice in his hand.
Mhm.
But the you know, there's a lot of important aspects that I'm really keen to get into. You know, one is the story, two is the aesthetics. Like my next youngest brother and I used to live together. We both played Warmachine at the time. And, you know, playing like a couple of games every day, it gets a little stale. So we were like, let's start to introduce some novel terrain into our games. So we
Mhm.
played like, you know, a game on on like city tables, you know, where we're going to set up like an entire like bunch of buildings on a diagonal grid, walls, like vents for steam that are like sewer grates and stuff. Um, you know, they led to really surprising strategic situations, and we learned to play around a lot of different things. But the games were just a lot more engaging on an aesthetic level to have
Mhm.
them really tightly themed. You know, so what's your balance going into your creative process when starting with something like you know, the Nova narrative event this year? How much of it is driven by storytelling opportunities, structure of your scenario, and how much is driven by the aesthetic experience just for your creative process?
It's wild to think because when I think about the scenarios that we've done, it's kind of like changed. Like every single time, like we learn something new and we will fine tune it and make it a little bit better, and then fine tune it. And I think the process, what it looks like is that it's like, what do you want to do? Like, what is the story? But like not detailed story. Like, what do you want like the event to be? Then you build the scenario around like what the event is, and
Mm.
then you like flesh out the details of like what's actually happening. But like it, so I can't take all the credit for this because the Andy Bevener, he is kind of like the person that works with me whenever we go and create this scenario. So I can't like, say like this is all me. And some background with that is that when I took narrative in 23, I had like 6 tables and I was like the only GM for the event, and he ended up helping me out with it. And then from there, we've basically been working on the narratives ever since. So we came up with the Siege of Five Fingers together, and we did Circles to Meaning together as well. So with that being said, just because I need to go give credit where it's due. Yeah, so for Nova 23, it was like we want to go and make it like about the Orgoth invasion. So like what are some like, so that's like what is the idea? It's the Orgoth invasion. Okay. What are like things that are relevant to an invasion? Looting, plundering supplies, capturing civilians, and like I don't know, like trying to do Orgoth sacrificial things, whatever, right? And that's how we built the scenarios as it went up, where it was like first you're collecting resources, right? You're like going in and like just staging area. Then the second was like we called it escort, so you're trying to get civilians in or out. Sorry, you're trying to capture civilians or trying to escort them out of the battlefield.
Escort has a double meaning in the City of Five Fingers.
No. That's 24, not 23. We're not there. And then the last one was like, okay, cool. They took the people and now they're like sacrificing them at an altar, and you're trying to stop the sacrifice from taking place. So like that was how like that one evolved. And then for the Five Fingers, I love pirates. Like I really love pirates, and I don't understand why, but I was like, I want pirate ships. I want a big pirate battle, like some like Pirates of the Caribbean, like that'd be so cool. But then this goes into the idea of like when you're doing narrative designs, like how's that going to go work? How do models attack each other? How do they charge? If they're in the sea and there's like ships that are far away from each other, they finally move. They spend 3 turns moving, and then what? There's like no area for them to actually move and engage with like the targets. I'm like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense. And I was really trying to shoehorn the pirate thing, but then we ended up landing on like trying to get somebody out of Five Fingers. And then at the time, Gravediggers was, I think, like going to be announced. It's like, oh, let's try to like put a Gravedigger spin on it as well. And Circle Dominions was just like us like doing our own thing. We're like, I love Circle as a concept. I wanted like teleporters like on the map, so that was more of a, I want this mechanic, but it didn't really have a story to go along with it. And that was the hardest to create because there was no scenario, right? It was like, I want that mechanic as opposed to figuring out what are they trying to do. So I think go ahead.
So then what you're saying is that there's a lot of ways you can draw inspiration for much like it. And I think I'm probably going to draw these parallels all night because it just makes sense in my brain, but it's much like a DM who's building an adventure, like by the way, former rogues, worst DMs ever. I'm just so I had a friend who was just like loved being a rogue, so everything was a trap. Everything was trapped. There was traps here, traps there. It's like, oh my gosh, please no more trap. I'm done. I don't want any more. Yeah, anyway, long story short, but yeah, anyway, but I think it's interesting how you used a mechanic to drive one, or a story, like actually a story that was going on in the fluff, the Orgoth invasion for another, and then a location sort of drove another one, right? So I think that's really, really cool. I thought it might be kind of fun to, can we queue up that video that I think Andy made for this year's Nova?
I got it up right here. I don't know. Yeah, I have it. I don't know. Will it get my audio? Will it be able to hear it?
I guess we'll find out.
Apparently not.
Well, that's lame. Okay.
I can, if you want me to, I can go and just copy this and put it into the studio chat. How do I put this chat with everyone? Where do I put this?
Oh yeah, you just go private chat and then you dump it in, and either John or
I'm gonna put it there.
Pull it up,
and then everyone can go take a look at it there. Then
hold on. All right, we're gonna see if John can do this. Hold on.
Okay.
Now, nobody judge me.
Is this going to be the wait? Are you going to put on the never-ending story thing again? Okay.
No, I wouldn't do that to you.
First came the silence.
Can you guys hear it?
Then the stones. Then the invasion. Across the lands of the Iron Kingdoms, monoliths have risen. Mysterious stones humming with arcane energy. No one knows who placed them. No one has lived long enough to study them. But they are not inert. They pulse. They listen. They call. As factions mobilize to seize this mysterious power, another force answers the call. Orgoth. Long believed scattered and defeated, the Orgoth have returned. Not as raiders, but as conquerors, guided by a dark resonance they claim as their birthright. Their ships darken the coast. Their warriors strike without mercy. Their shamans seem to know the stones by name. Perhaps these stones hold the secret to stopping the Orgoth invasion. The drums of war are sounding. They will not be silenced. First came the
Sorry.
That's pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
I like how the music, like one of the things I will give you guys a lot of credit for is the tables were beautiful. So visually it was stunning, right? You have painted models that you loaned people to use on the tables. So if they wanted to play with your models, they could. And then you hit the other, like I walk by the table and there's this God thing that was summoned and there's this massive music that's playing, right? And Erica is running around going, yeah, they did it. I'm like, is this bad? Oh, it's really bad. They're totally hosed. It was just so much fun. But the music, just much like this video that made me think about it, the music just adds a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Erica has like from like starting doing the battle reports and like all the other stuff that she's done, like she's become so proficient in just being able to set a feel, set a tone, and giving good direction to Andy as well. I'll say that. It's like really, really good for just making like really awesome content.
Yeah, that's such a great mood setter, and getting people into the headspace of what they're about to sit down for. And like as somebody who's DM'd games, just having the musical cues ready to go and like they don't outstay their welcome, but like they bring people into the headspace. It's such a clutch thing, again, meeting people on different contexts from, versus their highly Chessic environment. Like, let's get you really into what's happening right now. So all these start in different places, and you mentioned you went into hosting the narrative events for 23. Two sort of logistical questions. Being a one-man game master for a bunch of tables, how did you manage that, and what did you learn from the first year? And then the next one is on the construction end. You said you stood on like the shoulders of the 40K narrative community. What did you take away from how they structured things versus learning about that in a sort of Warmachine environment?
All right, so I'm going to be honest. I did not really know how they did their whole narrative thing, so it was really just seeing like here, like this is what they did. We're going to go try to best recreate it as best as we can. It's like that's the truth behind it.
So less of an Isaac Newton and more of like cargo cult. Like, all right, we're putting down runways, we're putting down planes. They're all made of bamboo. Let's figure this out fresh, like this is supposed to work.
It's just like they were able to do. I think we're smart enough to figure it out as well. So
that's dope. I love it. I love the like we don't know, but we're gonna make this happen.
Yeah. So the thing here, the reason why we went the GM style was that Eric and Andy did. I don't remember where it was. It was like one of the first narratives for Mark IV. It was like the train ride. I think it was like at Warfare Weekend maybe, or Adepticon. I don't remember where this was.
Mm-hmm.
But basically it was like a team 5-on-5. It's when they had the guard tower, and the scenario, I think there's like 5 guard towers. You have to destroy 3 of them or something like that. So that was the thing there. But anyway, Lauren Lauer, I believe, was the DM or GM for that scenario. So that's why we end up saying like we should do a GM, so that way the players will have something to go do aside from play a game of Warmachine. Like there's something cool or something weird, like you get to go and play around and do something you wouldn't really normally think about. Chucking statues at each other, or like setting the woods on fire, or pissing off local wildlife and fauna, so that way it potentially maybe like attacks the other people, right? So trying to do that with 6 tables it's just not doable. And actually what we found, it's more so it's a player count is what we find, is that it's like almost maybe like 2.5 players, or I guess 4, like 2.5 players at the same time is good for a DM. So if you have like 2 versus 2, it's fine. 3 versus 3, you can get away with it. You might get some slippage, but then anything beyond that, it's really hard to manage anything.
Right.
So like your 4v4s or 5v5s, it's really hard to make sure that everybody is engaged, that everybody is doing the DMing or the basically, you know, the D&D aspect of it. Because what happens, like if people are playing their game of Warmachine, you can throw like those wild curveball things at them, and then they're like, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. What other wacky stuff can we end up doing? I want to go and try and knock on this door and see like if there's a local that can go and help us out. So that's definitely a lesson learned for that. That's definitely like, if you want to do the GM route, it's much like DMing a group of players or a group of people. Like less people is usually easier to DM for, and the more it just kind of gets chaotic and out of control to the point like you might not have any control, and having no control, people may not end up having fun.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas like at a tournament, you know, you may get a call every 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes. Judge, can you come measure this distance for me? Or does this model have line of sight to this model? You know, my suspicion is at a narrative event, you can generally expect people to figure that stuff out. But like, you know, when somebody's like knocking at a door or trying to piss off a bunch of razor boars or something, you know, that's a lot more involved, and it's much more than like the judge frequency, you know, turn over turn, minute over minute, stuff like that. And it requires imagination to engage with too.
Yeah, and for that, each of your scenarios, I mean, we were lucky that we've had the different scenarios to kind of figure out how you can do it. So when we did the 23, it was 3 regions, so it was like Segnar, Ios, and Kador. We basically said like, these are the things that can take place within this area or within these regions, and then maybe they have a particular terrain feature that you can use to begin with. I know like Kador had like a cannon, and I think we did like trencher networks for our Segnar tables. And then when we did the 5 fingers scenario, we decided to have like more buildings, as like the buildings were like, these are the main rules, and then you kind of worked around that. So depending on however your game is set up, depending on how much effort or work you want to put into it, you know, it'll be helpful, right? You have all your notes, but just much like in D&D, like you're going to go and prep, you know, the east, the south, the west, and sure enough, they go north. You know, and it's like, all right, well, I got to go figure out something, and as you know, put south and north, and they don't know any better. But yeah, it's you have this really cool thing at this specific spot. Well, they're not going there, so how do I go and make sure that this cool thing can end up happening?
How much improv do you do as a game master?
it's like all improv. Like seriously,
Yeah,
it really
for,
is
for a narrative event. That's interesting.
Like you'll have your notes, but I mean, in the chaos of it, if you don't remember them, or if you're reading your notes, like you're not looking at your paper, you're trying to keep score. If like they're collecting the MacGuffins for the scenario aspect of it, you're trying to do this wacky thing that people are doing over here. They decided to try to go and ride the Manticore as opposed to, you know, trying to like fight it or so. It's like, okay, great. Oh, hi Erica, it's good to see you.
Hey Erica.
Yeah, it's very much like you'll have your notes, and I mean, I know I was on the Kador table. I think half the scenarios I was on the Kador table, and I just did my own things. Like I had the notes, but I'm like I need something in the moment because I did not read, you know, these guys right here. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious. Do you think that the narrative events would work well on Wartable, or do you think because Wartable is more of an abstraction that it would detract from what makes them great, which is the immersiveness of them? I'm kind of curious what you think.
I guess a way that I would almost ask it is like, is there a difference when you play D&D in person than where you were to play on Roll20?
There is for me.
Yeah, and I think like that's why I think like Wartable wouldn't work for a narrative in that kind of context. I mean, even then, so like your space, it's only a 48 by 48 regular table, And if you're doing one of these team events, like you need 2 to 3 tables, and you can't really do that.
Right. And you're really using the aesthetics to pull people in, like to set this apart from a standard game or an experience that may be everyday or humdrum. And like when I've DM'd events, online, versus in person, I have to change things up and be like much more in the visual aids, much more in the visual, like the audio cues and stuff like that to really pull people in and facilitate something approximating the same experience. I mean, one of the biggest changes in how Warmachine was played was Muson Minis and the true 2D neoprene terrain. It made things.
I ruined it.
I mean, you ruined you're a destroyer or a savior depending on who you ask. But it makes things much more precise. Like you get true measurement. You're not worried about like your models riding up weird on a forest or having to find a hill bit or something like that. But the visual attractiveness, both to the passerby and prospective Warmachine player, and in terms of just the aesthetic and imaginative engagement of the players themselves, it's a totally different game. And I think you're right that like War Table is the full 2D terrainification of existence.
You're getting your clean game and you're getting your clean measurements. Like I remember talking to Eric and Andy about it when War Table first picked up, and I just remember it just felt different. It felt like the most precise game you're going to go and play, but in some cases, like you lose the interactive of it. And that's one thing I just realized when you were talking is that if you try to do if you ended up trying to do a narrative game on War Table, if you didn't have webcams on, because there's no webcam interface, you couldn't tell if people were enjoying themselves or if they were just kind of like keeping to themselves. Because I know that's one of the benefits is just like, hey, like I can tell this person's upset because their whole army maybe is being destroyed. It's like, all right, well, let's go bring them back in, or let's have them like pop up over here, and that way they're still able to go and engage. But you potentially lose that, and then the goal of narrative for people having fun, that doesn't end up it falls flat on its face.
Right.
I feel like we need to make narrative a thing. And I guess Paul, you got the ball started, but we're gonna need like everybody to pitch in. And the reason why we want to do this, a couple fold. One, I've said already, new players are the lifeblood of the game, and we get people having fun. But much past that, what I think would be really cool. Have you guys seen those Epic Encounters boxes that Steamforge sells?
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware. We primed a lot of models. I know them.
Right. Yeah. So could you imagine if there was Warmachine themed ones with a narrative event built around an Epic Encounter box, and how cool that product would be and how much fun you could have?
With them having access to the Iron Kingdom's IP, which the RPG aspect of it, it could be very easy for them to go and plug that in. And I mean, hey, two birds with one stone. If they end up being models we could play with, like, oh, if you go buy them, there they go. You go and add them to your army as well. So, but
alt sculpts, some terrain pieces. Yeah, that would be amazing.
And it would be so much fun, right? Like, how cool would it be to be like, okay, at this event, we're going to run a couple narrative events, and we'll just break open a couple Epic Encounters boxes, and there you go. Go have a good time. And, I'm sure they have like some army construction rules. They could have special army construction rules. Like, maybe for this Epic Encounter, you could, it could be like team ups. You could have two warcasters in your 50-point army, and then they each have a 25-point army from two different factions, right? Just think about the cool stories you could tell, just the interesting game modes that you can't really do with regular Warmachine that you could do with narrative. That would be like, you could get with the power players, right? And they could just build the truly brokenest thing ever, and it would be fun, right? It'd just be like, this is ridiculous, and then you could have the people that love to paint, and you could have these like beautiful Epic Encounters models that are just very evocative, right? Yeah, like a loot box random epic encounter. That would be fun. That actually could be an event. Like, could you imagine if like there was wrapped epic encounter boxes and they're all different and people just got a random one and they took their person they were playing with, or maybe it's a group of 4, or maybe it's like Commander, where it's like a group of 5 or 6 people and they're like, okay, here's your encounter box and ta-da. I just think it could offer a whole new mode of play that would help us tell those stories and to help give new players a way to enjoy their models without the brutal part about Warmachine is the learning curve is so hard and you get your face kicked in over and over and over and over again. And you're just like, I don't know if this game is for me. I can't seem to win a game like that. Literally if you're a new player and you feel like, I don't know if this game is for me, I can't win a game. Don't feel bad. Literally everybody goes through it. There isn't anybody that hasn't spent like, I'm on a 20 game lose streak. I haven't won a game yet. Particularly if you're coming into a meta that's a little bit established and they've had players playing for even 6 months longer than you. It's like the difference between an entry-level chess player playing at their first tournament and somebody that's been to 10. Like you learn so much in the early part of your development that the gulf between just starting and 6 months is massive. There's just so much to learn. Anyway,
as an aside, that's actually probably like, from competition, I have loads of wonderful memories, and from like traveling and meeting people, loads of wonderful memories. But my most treasured play-oriented memory was going to a casual 3-man team tournament. Like our metagame in the Bay Area was filled with a lot of new players. And we were really trying to get the game like back bootstrapped into existence. And I was playing against a guy who had only been playing for somewhere between 4 and 6 months. He was very new. Didn't quite have all his rules down and stuff like that. And I played a game. I played a game with him. Like his teammates and my teammates warned him, like, Nick, you're gonna have a bad time in this game. And I just took the perspective, okay, I'm gonna be maximally disclosive with my strategy and my intentions, and on Nick's turn, I'm going to be assistive with his strategy and making sure he is managing his rules effectively. And I actually wound up delivering him his first ever win in Warmachine. It was like, because I sat down with him, like, not knowing the full picture of this context. I'm like, okay, I have Zerkova 2 and I have Sorsha 3. You're only bringing one list. What do you feel like? And he's like, oh, I've only been playing this long. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to set Zerkova aside because you're going to have a very bad time if I choose to play this. I'm going to play Sorsha. Let's have a game. And I wound up working with him, like, to walk him through an assassination run, and we got to have those, like, narrative highs and lows, like, when his Satixis Pistoliers rolled hot fire on their Heartseeker shots, and when his Kraken rolled like poopy against my caster, to when Sorsha makes her tough check, to Sorsha dying to corrosion the next turn. It was a full range of like emotions and experiences, and like for me, that's a treasured Warmachine memory.
It's interesting, Alex. You just made me think. Like some of my most evocative memories in Warmachine are narratively driven. So I had a friend. His name is Billy. I don't even know if he plays anymore. I don't think he does, but he did reach out to me. He's like, should I buy in? I'm like, 100%, dude, buy in. But Billy named one of his gun mages because he assassinated me twice. And he's like, this guy deserves a name. Because it was just well, you got to roll like an 11 or 12. And he did it twice in 2 different games. And I'm like, okay. And so he wrote a name on the guy's base. And, and then the other thing I super remember is I played against Travis Mark before he was good.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't bad, but Travis was always one of those.
I was going to be a dick and say you could still do that today.
But
no, Travis is a good dude.
Yeah, but Travis, this was when he was doing a lot of judging and infernaling, and he was
Mhm.
always giving to the community. So
Oh,
he was
he
a very
still is,
solid.
yeah.
Yeah, he was a very solid player, but he wasn't the killer that he is today. And so I'm getting ready to just crush Travis because I have fun crushing people who are, you know, like Travis. And we sit down to play, and we're playing on this scenario table, and it's got trains on it, right? And these trains, you roll dice, and they just randomly move onto the board, and then they randomly move off, and they can happen on either player's turn. And I'll be darned if those trains, like every time I set up a charge, would come in and block my whole army. And then my turn would expire, and then the train would leave, and then Travis would charge me. This happened like 2 or 3 times, and it was so evocative. I was like, this is unbelievable. And Travis is just laughing because it's just like one of those things. You're just someday I'll have to have him tell the story because it's, it wasn't likely. Like there were rules that like you had if the train came on, it only went off on like a 1 in 6. But of course, yeah. That's a good idea, JRV. The app should let you nickname your models. Also, pro tip, you should absolutely name your models, especially the heroes, because there'll be models that you remember like, oh, I remember when you did this,
Yeah.
like you charged that warp wolf and you knew you were gonna die, and we all knew you were gonna die, but we needed it to frenzy on you. So
back in Mark II, I had an arcanist, like retribution arcanist, that in one game on free strikes killed 2 bastions and then Krios.
That's incredible. I got a red one as well. At least it was one of my mage hunter assassins. Like love the models, right? With chain weapon, and it was like, oh, I'll go and charge your Seraph. We'll see what happens, and like just crit decapitates it, and like 5-5-6-6, and we're like, oh, that was incredible. It's like,
she throws that like Quentin Tarantino slice, and like the Seraph just like.
Yeah. I never was able to recreate it, but I'm like, I put her in every single mage hunter list. I'm like, maybe you'll do it again. We'll see. Awesome anime moment. So
I had a friend, I'm not kidding you, who bought. So we had a very small local meta, and he bought some models from each of our factions just so he could model them destroyed on his bases, like pieces of Warjack, helmets, disembodied, like entrails coming out of the bottom of a Codor pikeman or whatever. And I'm like, this is really sick, but I kind of approve, because it was funny because he would paint the models that were killed in the colors of our armies. That's how committed he was to the whole thing, right? So yeah,
that's a good bit to commit to. I like that.
It was neat. It was really neat. I was like, this is really good. I'm changing my paint scheme.
I mean, so John and I have been going for a while, but this is like, I think a demonstration that, creating the space for players to have a narrative experience is tapping into something that's like really deep and primordial for all of us. Like this is something we crave, and that makes some of the strongest memories we have about this game. I think something I'm really curious about is, the dice can tell stories of their own. The players can tell stories of their own, and the game master has to react to all this and weave together a narrative around it. But the big player still on the board is the aesthetic and the terrain.
Mm-hmm.
How what's your process for generating the board, the world, the rules that players get to engage with the game of Warmachine in a new way that might help them tell those stories?
Okay, so at least for generating like the board, like you're just saying, like, how do you like come up with like things to interact with, or coming up with? Okay.
Yeah, and the visual feel, like just in the same way that when my brother and I threw down a city board to play a steamroller scenario, it was a different day, and and when you throw down like a master crafted temple, or you have the city of Five Fingers or something like that, how do you put that together in a way where it transcends window dressing and becomes an experience in its own rights? Like generating the encounters, generating the theming, like how do you think about it? And I know it's a bit multifaceted because your creative process comes at it from a few angles.
So yeah, and that's what I'm trying to tackle with like trying to figure out how to answer that question. So the one thing that before you even talk about like if you want to go for like a cool rule, like you can make up cool rules like all day and they'll be fun and it'll be interactive, and I'm pretty sure everyone will have a good time. Just making sure that they make sense, right? And that they're relatively balanced. Really, most narrative games are not, because that's what you allow the narrative actions or wacky stuff to happen. Probably one of the biggest things that you have to consider when creating these terrain pieces is I call it working space. So I was doing some calculations earlier, just because I'm like trying like to talk about this. So like your table is like over like 2,000 like square inches, right? You have two of a 4 foot by 4 foot table. But when you start to remove like the deployment areas, and then if you want everything to be consolidated in the middle, you have less and less and less space to work with. So if you want like this really nice looking like big piece of terrain, if it's too big, it's going to make it too clunky to be able to interact with anything else around the map. So if you like want those big pieces, like those temple, like that temple that we did for Zoo, I'm glad that Jay's group was able to figure this out, was putting it off into an area where you don't want them to spend the majority of the fight. Like everything was moving towards like the center of the 3 tables with a ley line scenario. But if you would have put that big temple right there, like closer to where like Barnabas would have showed up, it would have made for a completely different experience. So you have to balance like being able to play the game as well as adding your elements to it, so that way it just doesn't detract from the fun. That's like why like the pirate scenario doesn't work, because if we're on ships, there's like most of the space is dead space. Like you can't be in the water. So like how do you actually have the fight take place? And then let's do islands then. But then like, well, that's even like small space. How do you get from one area to the other? Like, yeah. And then like with like the charging rules, it just gets really, it can make for a bad experience for people. And then they're like, oh, this is what narratives are like. I'm not really interested.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because that was on my mind to ask, is like often, and my experience in 40K back when I was in like high school and stuff, was that narratives often tended to have this problem of gamification, where people would run exploit strategies, on a particular board or around a particular rule set. And, if somebody came at it just like, I'm not going to have any emotional investment, whatever, I'm just going to be in a super like ludic play the game mode, they would not have a fun time, and people playing with them would not have a fun time. But I love this concept of working space, because it is an acknowledgement in like the graduation into the 5 fingers environment, that like, okay, how do we give the pirate experience, knowing full well that people actually need to be able to play the game?
Mm-hmm.
And, I can answer this. You do it by not telling pirate jokes. That's how you give the pirate experience. 100%. Pirate jokes are the worst, and they should never be told. Okay, continue.
What's with the wheel in your pants? It's driving me nuts. Arr.
Yeah, okay. My life. I invited that. That's my
That was good. I'm gonna use that in my students when I see them tomorrow. That'd be great.
No, you have to tell you have to tell the joke right. So because I heard this joke 1,000 times, and I literally think I've heard every pirate joke in the history of pirate jokes. And Paul, you don't know this, but I used to do a podcast called Muse on Minis, and we did like 330 episodes or something, and most of them were 3 hours. And they just had fun telling me pirate jokes because they were just terrible. But this is the one you tell your students though, and you say, a pirate walks into a bar, and he's walking up to the bar, and the bartender notices that there be a navigator wheel in the pirate's pants. And the bartender looks at the pirate and says, what's going on with the wheel in your pants there, matey? And the pirate says, "Arr, It be driving me nuts.
His extra
should not-
delivery. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you shouldn't laugh at that. You're bad people. No ice, Legionnaires, no IC, right? What be a pirate's favorite letter? Ah, you might think it be R, but actually it be the C.
Why be it that pirates always put in for rations of corn?
Because
Because
they're
they
a
cost a
buccaneer.
buccaneer.
Yeah, I told you. I've heard I've heard every single pirate joke, and yeah, I'm immune. And so yeah, that was the thing for like 6 years of my life, is hearing retold pirate jokes. It got so bad they even got to the point where my co-hosts didn't even try to tell jokes anymore. They just would say something stupid like, "Yeah, she ran out of ramen. Yar!" I'm like, that's not even a joke. Yeah, anyway.
I mean,
Good
it just
times.
shows you that the accent is just really all you need.
Yeah.
So coming at it from the opposite angle, Five Fingers was something where you workshop very heavily from theme and desire to convey a specific corner of the setting. And it sounds like this year's Nova started out almost the opposite. Like, okay, love Circle, love what they have going on with ley lines and teleportations.
Yeah.
I've got this baller rule set. How do I graduate this into a board? What was the creative process like coming at it from that angle?
It was like funny because when Andy and I were talking about the narrative, I'm like, Andy, I want to do teleporters. He's like, what does that even mean? Like, I want to do teleporters. It's like I didn't even give him any details. But what I wanted was just the ability, because I thought would have been neat is if it was like 2v2, like it would have been a 5v5 scenario. And it was like a 2v2 here, a 2v2 here, and a 1v1 there. But then it would be like really cool if it's just like, all right, we're gonna go teleport our guys over here to the 1v1 fight, and then it'll be like a 2 versus 1, and then we're going to teleport over there. Like, I thought that would be a really fun experience. But then yeah, he ended up saying, well, like he's a very good devil's advocate about saying, like, well, what if the players just decide to leave that one zone and then they just go and gang up on this one? So now it's a 3-on-2 on this one table, and like they completely forego this. So I mean, at least for getting like the rule set down, I was really interested in doing it. So then we had to really focus in on a scenario that would have worked for that. My original idea, at least when I say like that was the mechanic, and then what I was thinking is that it'd be neat if, because no one really knows how the lane lines of the teleporters really work except for Circle. It'd be really cool if like the Orgoth found out about this and like, hey, why are we using ships? Like, why don't we just steal this technology so that way we can just bring everybody over here and not have to worry about taking like the ships and like, however long that would have been. So like thematically, like makes a lot of sense to be really cool. If it's actually in the fluff, probably not. And then from there, it was just figuring out like, okay, let's go do these 3 separate regions. There was really supposed to be a 4th table. We cut the 4th table because it just didn't work. But then we ended up turning the 4th table into how it all combines in the middle, where Barnabas ended up showing up. And then even that, I didn't even give a shout out to Workbench Maniac, because he's the guy who ended up helping up and even designing like the sculpt in the first place and getting it to us. So we were able to have it painted up for the event.
Yeah, there's a bunch of jumping off points that I'm again curious about. I guess a quick one is, okay, you're workshopping back and forth with your crew about, here's my concept for this game. Like, well, what works about this, what doesn't work about this, and models don't get to charge off of boats, and it becomes all guns, or teleportation. How is that going to work? Do you guys ever do dry runs of your narrative events? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's part of the process is that we do we'll have like a basic rule set, and we try to run at least one, like hopefully at least 2, but like 2 practice scenarios where it's like, here's what we want to go do. Let's figure this out, see if it works. And then we get a bunch of players. We tell them like this, like our local players, we say, this is the scenario. Tell us if this works or if it doesn't end up working. And they usually give really good feedback. They say, this doesn't work. This is too close. I didn't feel like I got to go and do X, Y, or Z. I don't understand like what's going on over here. And it just gives so much feedback. It's like, okay, cool. So conceptually, like we got the framework, we just need to dial in what we need to go and dial in. That was really cool about this this narrative, was that we got 2 data points because we were able to go and have Virginia, because they worked with us to go do 2 of the tables and run narrative. Jay and his guys were able to go and give us some data as well and figure out like, hey, this is something you need to go do and what not to go do. And even day of, like we'll run the scenario and realize like, okay, this didn't really feel that well. Let's go and like shift some things around and fix it there. So it's still like kind of like fine tuning and just making sure that everyone's having that good enough experience that we're hoping for.
Yeah. So the next one, leading much more granularly into the terrain, is okay. You've got your creative crew. You're bringing your local meta into the dry runs. You're getting the data points, and you're doing the refining. Something like the narrative tables at Nova were, for me as an outsider who wasn't there in person, like looking at the photos from the venue and looking at the promo trailer and talking to people who were there, it's like, I see the narrative table and I'm like, wow, I missed out on, I missed out on a hell of a time there. But this table is gorgeous. In terms of production, how many hands are involved for you in making all this come to life in such a vibrant way?
Okay, so if you can share my screen, I had the Google Doc up for like the interview guy, and I have like my photos. Yeah. All right. So Erica put a really funny video out on Facebook years ago, where it's like, here's the Warmachine tables, and like you see them, like you see like all the
right. Yeah, you got houses and walls, and everything is flat.
And then it's like, and here are the Lord of the Rings tables, and you just see like everything like looking so good. And I remember just, and like this is like a shot like showing like the armies on the table. It's like not like it's but I'm like, I always use the word embarrassing. It was embarrassing to play on those tables, like compared to seeing the 40K and the Lord of the Rings stuff. Yeah. So I talked to.
I'm going to argue about the 40K, because if you walk by 40K tables now, they all have like these weird little like cardboard L's on all the tables. Anyway. But yeah,
they got 3 dimensions. They got 3 dimensions. We didn't have a lot of that. That was my biggest gripe. Like you go walk by, and if it's like 2D terrain and unpainted models, like no one really wants to see what's going on. They're like, oh, that's right, kind of cool, and they'll move on.
It doesn't catch the eye in the same way. And I mean, I spent basically the whole of Mark III, and even back as early as Adepticon 2016, essentially hearing this complaint over and over again, which I think is completely legitimate, which is competitive Warmachine often looks completely sterile. Part of that is we are generating this clean play environment. Just as a contrast, something I'd like to offer up as like the right way to do it that gets you much more closer to the Lord of the Rings style is
good.
WTC last year, put on by the Germans. They were using the Rheincon terrain set, so they all had the mousepad 2D printed terrain. And what was really neat is they had matching corresponding 3D terrain toppers for everything. So like, you need to make a precise measurement, you go ahead and pick this up, and the forest template is underneath, or the building template is underneath, or whatever it was. But it's a phenomenal amount of work to produce that. That said, these boards were amazing to look at, and classic WTC style. One board was the Iosian temple board, and one board was the beach board, like that kind of thing. As a player, it's a bit of a privilege to come into. I mean, sort of following from Emerald Dragon and what John was saying, 40K is leaning a lot more toward the extremely technical in their terrain design, but they still have that like pop wow factor for when you're walking by a 40K table, where if everything's on like its little topper, it pops.
One
I
of
would
the
say that the ones that probably do it right are like Star Wars Legion tables. I've been to PAX Unplugged, and every single time I go there, it's like there's Naboo, there's Geonosis, there's Camino, and it's really incredible to be able to see these iconic places in the Star
Mhm.
Wars universes. And then I'm not familiar with the 40K lore, but very similarly, like it's like, oh, this is a cool, probably like a Tyranid infested planet, and a cool like orc planet, right? And you can
Mhm.
really get behind playing within the world. It's just with our stuff, we didn't have any of that. And like going into Nova 23, I like told Eric and Ian, like, we need to do something. So I
Mhm.
talked to Gavin, who's the Lord of the Rings guy who puts on like all the tables. And I said, like, how do you do this? And he said, I'm gonna be honest, like you don't do it all at once. You do about 3 to 4 tables a year and call it. And I'm like, all right, I gotta do 6 tables. Okay, I got it. Or no, like 12 tables. I gotta do 12 tables worth of stuff. Got it. Okay, got it. But I mean, like that was what like the thing was, because like we had to go and play catch up and to be able to go and do for our future events and such.
do you guys want to hear a story?
Sure.
Alex, do you remember the first Warmachine Weekend Invitational? Who played in that?
The first one is this. So I know Warmachine Weekend Invitational is basically as old as the game, or Warmachine Weekend is basically as old as the game, but
It was
the
the first
Invitational
Warmachine only convention. Yep.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Carl Morgan had this idea. He created the Invitational, which Privateer Press later co-opted.
Mhm.
They made their own thing. They didn't call it the Invitational. They called it the Iron Gauntlet, if you remember.
Right.
But they literally just stole it from Carl. And Carl was fine with it. He was like, yeah, whatever. But the very, very first Warmachine Weekend Invitational finals was between Beanish Gillen from Focus and Fury, and I can't remember who his opponent was.
Wait,
but
was 2010 the first year?
I think so.
Oh man, so I do actually know it was Beanish Gillen and Jake Van Meter. Because I was curious about the history of this, and I went and dug back through time and discovered like 2003 Warmachine launches at Gen Con. November 2003, St. Louis has Warmachine weekend, and like it's maybe a dozen guys. And then you flash forward to, I was looking for, because I'm super interested in the history of play and the history of competitive play. And the earliest I could find was Beanish Gillen versus Jake Van Meter.
Okay, so we're watching this game, and I'm standing next to Carl, and he looks at me, and he's ticked off, and I'm like, Carl, what's wrong? He's like, this is the showcase for Warmachine. This is the pinnacle. This is what we use to advertise the game, and the models are falling apart. Nothing's painted. And he was, and so that is where the painting requirement came for what eventually became Iron Gauntlet, but it was called the Warmachine Weekend Invitational. And I groused about it because there was I'll be honest, and I may have had a hand in creating this idea, but I was more interested in playing the game and not really modeling and painting my models. But if you think about it from a health of the game, and in a lot of ways, a Warmachine table, the terrain, and the models that are on it are a calling card, right? Or a business card. So when somebody walks by who plays a different game and they see, I don't know, a trike on a table that's like the table that Joe built, the zoo table, you're like, oh my goodness, what is this? I want to know more. And if they walk by and it's all unpainted miniatures that are falling off their bases, they're probably, it looks like a board game, and they don't even pay attention to it, right? So anyway, that is how the painting requirement came about. It was Carl blowing his top. Like, I was just watching him, and he was just getting mad because he had spent all this time developing this invitational and setting up a whole circuit so people could earn points and get qualified. And the culmination of it was these unpainted models. I think Jake's models were probably painted, but Beanish's were just a disaster. Like, they were all falling off their bases. We've all seen that guy, right? Anyway, it was,
trust me. Like, I don't paint models unless I'm required to by WTC or the Invitational. And like, the last few events I've been to, I felt guilty every time like a normie walked by and was like, whoa, this is cool. And then they see my unpainted Abyssal King. And I'm like, this would be so much cooler if I could just get off my ass.
Yeah, thank goodness for commission painters. That's what I'll say to that.
Oh, I'm too poor. I do them by myself.
Yeah, no, I don't have any talent. I can't draw a circle, a box, or a straight line. So I cannot paint. I also can't see. I'm like half a century old. So
Literally half a century old.
Literally half a century old. Yeah. So Paul, what do you think? Do you kind of feel the same way about just the paint and it sort of goes hand in hand with running narrative events, right?
I mean, personally, I love painting models. I feel like it's such a divisive topic where everyone's like, you shouldn't have to be forced to play painted. I know when the IG information came out and everyone's like, wait, we have to have our models painted for these IG events. I remember like the internet was kind of like up because they're like, oh, why are you forcing the hobby on? And a lot of people have their opinions about it, but it's I'm not trying to say like it's not hard, but if you're putting in like a little bit of effort, it's not really the most difficult thing to do. You know what I mean? It's
it's not that hard to get to a respectable tabletop quality where the immersion is
like just rattle can it a base color, like pop in a couple of like metallics, throw a wash on it. Like it's good enough for me. That's fine. You at least like put in some effort into it. But when
that is how I paint my army to these standards.
I don't know. Like I'm perfectly fine with that. I get really upset where it's the I don't want to go and force myself. I don't want to force the hobby on it, right? And I want to go and play the game and play a good game. But I'm like, well, what's the flip about that? What if someone's like really just good at the hobbying aspect of it, but they're not really good at the play, right? And then it's just like, are you going to go and force the play onto that person to have to, to be competent against everybody else? I don't know if that landed, if that was articulated well, but I feel like I think everyone has like a baseline to be able to do all aspects, do the social aspect of it, do the hobbying aspect of it, do the playing aspect of it. We're not asking for everyone to be expert painters, just to have something exciting to go and look at. Because again, like when you're at these big competitions, you're an ambassador to the people, you're ambassadors for the game, for anybody that ends up walking by. So when they see like painted armies of gray, like they're not really going to be super impressed with what they're looking at. And even like the tables as well.
Yeah, I think Euromachine nails it. One of the things that happens at all the big conventions, and that is people sort of wander, right? And everybody goes through stages with their hobby. And eventually, like the people that are mad at their hobby, we want them to walk by our hobby and go, I'm kind of curious about that. And then ideally you get them to play the narrative event with somebody else's models, like, the loaner models or whatever you have there that are beautifully painted. And they have so much fun. They immediately walk up to the booth and buy some models. And then we just captured another player, right? And it's incumbent upon everybody in the hobby to help draw new players to the game. Because again, I think I've said this 2, maybe 3 times, they are the lifeblood of the game. And without growth and without, honestly, I hate to break it to you competitive players, and I'm a former competitive player. Now I'm just like a wannabe competitive player. And that, like, competitive players drive a feeling about the game, right? Like, because people want to feel like the game is kind of balanced, but we buy almost nothing compared to what casual players buy. And we're such a small portion of the market for the game that you need to make room for the people who love the models, the people who love the lore, the people who just want to have these cool steam-powered jacks. Because, I mean, like, the steampunk thing it's kind of neat, like it's really cool. The Tesla coils, and it's just got a really cool aesthetic. Goggles, who doesn't love goggles, right? And, like, I don't know. It's really, really important that we make the game as attractive to as diverse a group of people as we can, as many different types of people as we can. And we try to make it a hobby for everyone so that
Mhm.
we can grow it to new heights. And so we get our Warmachine TV show. Otherwise, we're not getting it. I'm just telling you. Alex, you're on mute.
Thanks. Yeah, I have a bit of a rant about this because we're both Warmachine old heads, and when we say like major competitive events involve Beanish Gillen, most people are like, who?
Yeah.
You know, if you've been around this game, especially if you've been around the competitive side for a long time, you will notice edition over edition, year over year, there is competitive player churn. Like the top end does churn pretty regularly. I mean, JVM appears to be eternal, and I would be surprised if he ever went away. But by and large, the important thing is that an end game exists for your hobby. That there's somewhere this is all going to. That's often painting competitions and playing competitions, and often hand in hand with those two is the friends you made along the way and sticking around for the community. But yeah, you're right. The competitive players don't necessarily spend all that much money, and the lifeblood really is people getting into it and discovering that there's something to be excited about here. That's just such a crucial element. And I won't forget, there was this great talk at GDC, I want to say back in 2016, 2017, I saw of a woman talking about competition in hobbies, particularly with an emphasis on competing in competitive gaming. And she presents a breakdown of her hobby expenditures as a game developer for what she does outside of work as her main, all the way in the end game hobby, which was ice skating. And she says almost everyone that internalizes like the economic benefits of this are airlines and hotels.
That's interesting. So, Paul,
yeah, go ahead, please.
So, what would you say if somebody came to you and said, "I want to run a narrative event"? What would be like? I'm not to just totally sidetrack this conversation, but actually get it back on track.
No, sorry, it's fine. It's fine.
What would you tell them to make the event good? Like what to focus on, what to start with? Like, don't get overwhelmed with the details, right? Like, what would be your advice to like make it fun?
I would definitely say that one of the first things you want to go do is just get some experience of either playing in one, just so you know what it would be like, so you know what kind of what you'd expect for your players. I would also strongly encourage to try out the narrative scenarios. Like I think a lot of us just come from the steamroller, six scenarios over and over again. Like go look at the Black Tide scenarios. There's like 12 of them that you can go take a look at. There's even all the Battleforge ones that just kind of give you a different headspace and a different place to think of when you're coming up with your ideas. And if you're, and then I guess where are you talking like a convention or just with your friends like one
I
night?
mean, like, yeah, like if you were going to do a game night and you're like, hey guys, you want to try this new scenario event? Like, even if they borrowed one of your packets, for example, right? Like, what would you tell them? You're the GM. Go, like do ABC, 1, 2, 3. What's if you were to break it down, just what's the most? I mean, obviously experience, but somebody who's running their first event isn't going to have experience.
Yeah, no, I see. So if they actually have like no experience whatsoever, I mean, I would just say just run it. Like just pull the Band-Aid off and fall on your face, figure out what was incorrect, and then try again the next time. I mean that's what it is. That's what we're doing constantly. It's like even when you're playing your games, you're just going to go off and try it out. Say I want to do something new. Who would be interested in doing this? Just have it be like on a casual night or right after a steamroller. It's like or after a convention. Maybe like with what I think like November we're gonna be getting like the updated rules or whatnot. So maybe like sometime in October, like hey, nothing really matters. So or we're just gonna be changing soon. So let's just have fun with it.
Right.
And
yeah, we're in the off season. Let's have a good time and like do something that's really gonna keep our love of the game fresh.
It's like a palate cleanser as well. That's the other thing. It's like even like when you look at like your Brawl Machine games, like it's just something different. One of the I mean, not to go. I want to go on a sidetrack right now, but like Company of Iron was something I was so excited for, and sad that I only had like 2 games of it, because it offered another way of engaging in the game that was just not like a 75-point steamroller. And dovetailing off of that, my favorite time playing Mark III was right at the very end when we were going to Mark IV, where I started playing 125-point games. I got to go play 2 casters. I'm like, why have we even doing this whole entire time? And it was a completely different experience. So I guess the reason why I bring this up is like being able to go do something different. You may find a new love or a new appreciation of the game.
Yeah. That's a great call out, by the way. Again, as a Warmachine old head, people always get really suspicious when you say 2 caster games, and you're like, trust me, bro, the game plays super well and is super balanced, and like the legacy of the game design of this game, like the original way top level competition was originally envisaged to be played in Mark 1 and Mark 2, like very early Mark 2, was 2 caster games. This game can handle it, and it's thrilling.
Yeah,
I will say this: one of the most fun I've ever had was that there used to be, I don't know if they still do this, they used to run what was called the Adepticon Team Tournament, and it was well known in 40K, the Adepticon Team Tournament, and in Warmachine they started running it every year, where it was you and like your buddy, and you each had a 50-point list or a 75-point list. I can't remember how many points it was exactly, but you just came up with the grossest combinations because they weren't. Was it 50? Yeah,
it was 50.
Yeah. There weren't restrictions which armies you could combine, right? So I'll always remember everybody did this. I don't know why they did this, but they all showed up with Haley and Denegra because duh. And I still remember people like playing. There was a couple of guys we were playing against, and they're playing music as they walk up to the table, and it's "Hey Soul Sister." I don't know if you guys remember that song, but I remember. I can't sing. I'm sorry. I mean, I did sing a little bit of Never Ending Story last week, so if you want to go see that, you can. I don't recommend it, but anyway. Anyway, a long way to say we should maybe run some more of those 2-man team tournaments because it's a super fun way to play the game. And again, as Paul alluded to, a palate cleanser is great. Like it's just fun to let your hair down and do something different. Which is why I think Matt's already thinking about this, but this Epic Encounters idea for narrative events for Warmachine with like super cool minis that maybe aren't in the game, so they could have or maybe they have alternate rules for I don't know how they would do it. I'm sure they could figure something out, but I just think that would be such a cool way to like have a good time.
Yeah,
never threaten me with a good time.
But I mean, the one thing that just going with that, no one's stopping you. I think it's like the culture that we usually get at our local game groups is like it's the 100-point steamrollers, and like that's what we're going to go do. It's like, well, what if I want to do a duo caster? Why don't we try doing 125, 150 points? What's on the app? That's fine. Just go ahead and add the extra like warjacks in, and just make sure like equals 150. Have fun with it, right? There's like the 3 huge base like a game that you go and play if you really wanted to.
I am going to start aggressively pushing my local tournament organizers now. Like, we should do a duo event.
They're really fun. The other thing is, the great thing about a duo event like that is it's a lot of fun, but it also has the added advantage of taking an entire round off your event. Yeah. So if you think about, you're putting twice as many people at every table, so then you could have.
I just straight up meant 2 casters, 1 list, but yeah, a team up. And like the team up Adepticon style team tournament event is so great for meet and greets, especially if you do the pairings randomly.
Yep. I actually lost a round of that because I'm fat. True story.
Oh, this is the one where you was it Keith you had playing on the third of the board?
No. I
came off from the sides too.
I was playing with Lance.
Oh, it was Lance. That's right.
It was Lance, and it was Keith and Brian Giese against me and Lance, and we were giving them the business. but I was like really focused in the game. So I'm like over the center of the table like this. And I've expanded to the point where Lance is in the corner, like this on the table. And his caster ended up being in killbox because he got killbox because I was too fat. Lance was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, that's on me. I took up too much room. And it was and Keith never let me live the end of it. Yeah, you lost the game because you're a fat ass. That's what he said. I was like, okay, thanks, Keith. Appreciate it, buddy. Anyway.
All right. So I want to pivot this back to narrative and just real quick, because I know you put a great deal of you and your entire team put a great deal of attention into the terrain. Sure. And like, again, 2025 Nova Open narrative event, I was not only gobsmacked by the beauty of the tables, but as you said earlier, that they had working space and that these were eminently playable tables.
Yeah.
So in terms of your whole craftsman crew, you have your proofing process, your play testing process, you're bouncing it off locals, you're doing dry runs. How many hands does it take to physically make a big scale God tier, tournament narrative event?
I wish I brought more pictures. Oh, you put it away. Oh, I thought you were sharing my screen for the thing. Yeah, this is the only two I was able to find. I'm really bad with keeping pictures over a long period of time.
Yeah. I see at least 5 pairs of hands in there.
Well, there's multiple tables that are happening. So this was back in 23. So we had multiple areas. So this area was making buildings, and we literally used the old privateer press. Gaming group needs a set of terrain, here you go. And I made one and then showed everybody what they had to go and do. It was just follow the steps. So over here we were doing the houses. One side over here they were doing the trench, which is basically these walls that we use. We have so many of them now at this point. And then one more area over, I believe David Lee, he was painting Ios by himself, which is an amazing guy over there. And the other group was doing our hills. We had a bunch of the insulation foam. But this was a whole community thing. This is 12 hands on deck. And what do they say? It's many hands make for light loads. It's really it. So I was like, all right, I need you to make windows. So we just made a butt ton of windows, right? It's we're starting to put them on all the all the things.
Yeah, but, you got one aged granny in a hairnet putting together balsa wood, crossbeam, done. Balsa wood, crossbeam, done.
It was really funny, but it also was nice. Is here's what you're going for, and everyone makes these little houses and cute little things. Everyone who does something a little bit different, and it's just kind of funny where it's here's what it should look like. It's like being a teacher and seeing a bunch of student work. It felt very much what I do for my career. And then your other thing you were talking about was working space. So this was our map that we used for when we did Five Fingers.
I got to max this screen. My eye movement is gonna go nuts because usually I have you in my bottom right corner, so I'm looking at my camera. But this is such a crucial concept for having a good working board, and I just got to take this in.
Yeah, so this is what I was saying about our space. It's just well, where is the action happening, and where do we want people to be deployed and stuff? So instead of having stuff in the way, the idea here was it was Kane. It says Kruger because we want to be oh, it's actually Kane, but we didn't want anybody to know. But it was we had Kane starting from here, and you can see it's you're in between two baddies. And then you're in a good area, but then they all enclose.
Right.
And then
they're peeling off to their left.
Yeah. It was a really, really, really neat concept of an idea. But then okay, we need to make sure it's as straight shot as possible. So where do we put these buildings? So it's not a direct line for you to just move straight, but where can we start to move the pieces around? So I didn't get any of the I don't have any of the what is it, the pictures of the actual tables when it was set up. I'm pretty sure we found a YouTube video. And then the other one was where did I put it? Was it here?
This is I just gotta say, seeing that diagram, this shows a great degree of thoughtfulness, and you know, the wonderful thing about what you've walked us through here with your process is like, okay, you know, you have your locals, let's do some dry runs. You have
Mhm.
an adjoining community, let's do some dry runs.
Yeah.
You know, this is a great degree of thoughtfulness, but this is not out of reach for for like anyone really, especially when you're doing the forerunning work for them and like you're there, you know, they get to be the Isaac Newton standing on the shoulders of this level of attentiveness.
Well, let me see if I can find some other pictures of like the thing. But I mean, like, what's great about this is like when you're creating your scenarios, you don't need everything. Like, you could just
Mhm.
put napkins on the table and say, "This is this building. It's being built right now." Or we go and bring the building, and it's like it's fabricated, but it's not painted yet. So it you know
Right.
it's like different materials, like pipes and stuff, and it just looks wacky. But then once it's all done, like it's fine. But no, it's actually been like a really fun process to just kind of like create things and just say like this should be here, this should be here, this should be here. Let's see what happens. When we did the circle one at our gaming night, what was nice is like because all three tables are doing the same thing, we only had to run two of them because if
Mhm.
everything is if it's the same kind of setup at each location, like there shouldn't like these two tables are mirrored, so we only need one of them, and then we can go do the zoo table because it's like two on one side and two on the other.
Right.
And yeah, when you're doing this, it feels almost like video game like development, because I know like I've seen videos where it's like, oh, you think video games are really really cool and amazing, but then like you just see it like if it's you look at it, it's skeleton, like this is all it is. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
And then like it's neoprene is what it is, right? It's like the neoprene material. So then you start to build it up and make it a little bit more razzle dazzle, more cool stuff
Yeah.
happening. But yeah, like this is what we did in order to go and figure out like everything. We got like scratch rules on everything. Started like add like names of people and stuff like what we want to have happen. So it's like
Yeah.
once you have like
Yeah.
your working space, what can we actually like put in here that's relevant for the pirates, right? Well, they
Mhm.
probably have like a workshop. Oh, what if there's an airship right there? Like the airship can like move Kane like all the way over. That'd be really cool. And like it's just like, yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. And then everyone starts like collaborate and come up with other ideas. Like even like some of our locals will come up with really good plans as well. Like just really, really, really fun stuff.
Mhm.
Another thing that I'll point out too, like don't be intimidated to be a game master in one of these games because sure, there might be like a lot of like cool stuff that can happen in the game and notes and NPCs, but Warmachine takes time to move models and roll dice.
Yeah.
So as the
Mhm.
game master, you could always be like referring to your notes and nobody's going to notice because they're trying to decide if they want to go left or right or be 6 inches forward or 5.5 inches forward. Like, am I going to die here? And then when
Mhm.
they start rolling attacks, it's like, well,
Yeah.
so it's don't be intimidated. Like it can look like a lot. Like if you scroll back through that list of stuff, it looks like a lot of stuff that you're like, oh, do I have to memorize all this? No,
No,
you just
no.
you just have to be able to refer to it, and decide what you're gonna what's gonna be relevant. So yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then one other thing I was going to go and say is when you start to design like your stuff, I just took a
Oh,
lot
give me
of
those
photos of like
pictures.
these are the photos from like when Privateer Press ran their narratives. But
Yeah.
all I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
is just looking at like their stuff. Like, okay, cool, they got like docks. Okay, maybe we can try to do some of that. Trains. Okay, something interesting that I think there's like supposed to be like a big crane somewhere. I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out
This
where
is
that
like
picture.
your Pinterest
Yeah,
board
right
for
here.
like,
Yeah, and
here's the elements I really want to highlight in my game because this was the kind of thing that got my imagination firing.
well, it also helps out with figuring out if you want to go build these buildings, like if you're going to go
Mhm.
scratch
Mhm.
build them, or if you're going to go try to find something on maybe my mini factory, you at least have an idea of like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, or maybe you like know somebody who can go and make the stuff for you. So
Mhm.
there's lots
Oh,
of different ways you can go and tackle that.
I hadn't thought about that, but 3D printers actually makes this way more
Yes,
accessible
much
and
so.
way the potential is there to do like some super cool stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, and then this was the other one. I mean, I can show you this. Like, this was like another one where we did like more of a scenario base. Like our first one, we did it. We basically copy and pasted like how the scenarios looked in the narratives for Black Tide. So it looks very much like something you'd see out of the steamroller. So I ended up like
Mhm.
creating all these and stuff. But I mean, like that was more so like this was more region based. So we just added the materials in there and just made sure it played like a regular steamroller table at that point. So there's lots of different ways you can go about figuring out how you want to go make your tables and such.
Yeah. So that was something that was really important to me, is that like we shout out, how much of a village this takes, and the thoughtfulness that's involved in the process, both the thoughtfulness and that it's not inaccessible. If you want to do this kind of thing, you can get in on this game.
I'm gonna mute
And
myself real fast just to see if I can find any other images. I'm gonna browse
Oh,
Facebook.
yeah,
So,
please.
like, if you ask me a question, if I don't like answer, just give me a second.
No, don't worry. Alex and I can just talk about nonsense for no problem. No problem at all. Alex, I wanted to ask you really quick. I wonder if we could film a narrative event. Like, how cool would that be?
Oh man.
Like sometime when we're local together, we could get a few people together and just actually, you know who needs to do this? Paul, I'm sorry, I know you're scrolling and you're not paying attention, but your sister is in charge of putting together filming a narrative event so that we can put it up and just show people how much fun it actually is.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yep. I'll come play in it. If you guys run it at Tried and True, I'll come play in it and I'll be like loud and obnoxious. So
if that's happening, I'll make it out to the East Coast, just let me know when. I'll be there.
Yeah, you can crash on my couch. It's all
Yeah.
good. Actually, we should maybe make it just like invite everybody. The
Yeah.
chatters, anybody who wants to come play, like we'll do it. But
No,
I would love
yeah. If we get Jay Beatnik there, like hot damn, we're spooning on a couch.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if we can twist. What do you think, Paul? Can we twist Erica's arm to do this as a video?
That's so cruel.
You can do one.
And-
That'd be possible. That's fine. I've actually
Invite
been
a
able
guest
to
on
find.
the show. Tell us
Or
about
what?
your narrative events. Low key, run a bespoke narrative event for me.
so we could. Yeah, I mean,
Let me
I'm not-
see. I think I've actually found a lot of the images. Yeah, I got more stuff from all the other things. I can't find
No,
the
yeah.
craft
Hit
night.
me up with the visuals because these are fire.
Yeah, here I got them up here. So I wasn't able to find the narrative when we were building Five Fingers. Am I still muted? No, I'm not muted anymore. Okay. So this was our final Five Fingers map that played here. So actually, the community helped out in doing this. So we were all in Eric and Andy's basement. We did a barbecue. So Andy, it was like funny. He's like, I'm not really good for like the painting stuff, but I can cook a meal. I'm like, that'd be great. So he ended up doing a really like delicious smoked bricks. So good. So wonderful. But anyway, we had that. Everyone helped out making the piers. We had David Lee end up making our whole entire wall for Five Fingers.
Now,
but then,
are we supposed to see a visual side by side? Because I'm just seeing a Google Doc.
is this not? 1 second. Let me.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Fidget
wait,
with the screen shares. Yeah.
How do I do this? 1 second. Screen share. How do I do this? Present.
Yep.
Slides. Let me stop the share. I'm going to present share screen. Can I just do a window? Entire screen?
Yeah. If you're
All
doing
right.
a slideshow, you want to do Windows. Yeah.
All right. I should see me, guys. All right. Now we got it. Are we good?
Oh, this is killer.
Okay, yeah. So everybody helped out with making the docs, which because like again, like I was a parent of one kid with another one like on the way at this time. I just did not have the time in order to go and do this. So we constructed this. We stained the wood. David Lee ended up making the wall for us, which was incredible. The little tiny crane system here. This is other shots of like the pieces.
Is so nice.
Yeah, and then that's not it. And then this is like the behind the scenes when like, okay, cool, we have like the pieces and like this is like the fabrication of it. So that's this building right here, right? You can see it like being fabricated with like multiple different pieces where it's like the original Nova pieces, this awesome windows that I got Workbench to go and bake for me, and then like other like mundane materials and stuff. And like again, like you could do your test with like your stuff that's like just being worked on, and it's like that's perfectly fine. And then also for our terrain day, people were painting these up, so they were all done, and then everyone ended up getting on black, and then I was able to go and get them all set up. So all this is what you see here in these images, like right there.
So I just want to highlight, like, in terms of the engineering quality of these terrain pieces, like what you need to engage the mind and like really be sold on the narrative and style of what's going on. Like what my brother and I used was Canada Raven at the time. She had a laser cutting company. We bought a bunch of her laser etched wood buildings.
Okay.
Super low resolution, low on detail, but like high on theme. You know, for us, they slapped.
Okay.
Like what it takes to engage the mind in you know, a narrative and aesthetic experience is like, and I'm saying this to the audience, not you, like to the audience. If you are hesitant about your ability to run a narrative game, what it takes to put on a convincing show is probably less than what you would expect. What Paul is showing us here is like the top end of fabrication, like an unbelievable quality of building and like level of immersion.
Yeah,
This is remarkable, and this is not the standard you have to hit if you want to show people an unforgettable time. This is like a once in a generation kind of table, you know?
Yeah, the whole thing with like the terrain stuff. I mean, I could terrain like that's my wheelhouse. That's pretty much all I really do know at this point, or at least what I was doing. I know I heard a gentleman, or I think someone was talking about Carver Town. I know I had multiple people like complimenting on the set list table. Like I love doing that stuff. I love really thinking about what the location is and what would be a good way to skin existing terrain rule sets in order to go and match that area. But then when you go and like think about like these locations, the best thing to do is like look at the art. Like we don't have nearly as much as we used to, but you go look at like the old, I mean, you can Google search, you can go and just
the
find
Iron
like
Kingdoms World Guide, Five Fingers, Port of Deceit, Iron Kingdoms Player's Handbook, Iron Kingdoms the role playing. Like there's so many resources out there. Even if you're grabbing, like, by the way, they're like super cheap on Drive-Thru RPG or Humble Bundle, like Warmachine Escalation or Warmachine Superiority.
Yeah, I'm looking, but I mean, like, I have like a Warmachine folder that is just, it's nothing but all the like a lot of like different PDFs that I just look at the art and I'm like, okay, like we have to do Carver Town, right? Like, what does Carver Town even look like? And you go and take a look at the Iron Kingdoms like thing, and just from that one scene,
Carver Town is one of the least illustrated locations that they've ever named in the city. Yeah, there's precisely one. That's the only picture of it ever.
But what was nice though is like you, from that one picture, you're able to draw inspiration. Like, okay, it's like it's piggies who want to have a society, but what does that look like? So like they're trying to build it up. And again, like when it comes down to just naming, getting that feel, you just figure out what is the region, what is like the history of the region, what is it doing right now, and then how do you illustrate that with like your pieces. We're really grateful. I'm very thankful that SFG has like their terrain thing going on My Mini Factory. I love seeing the pieces that are coming out with that, and that's definitely helping out with being able to match the flavor of Warmachine, because I know that's been that was one of my biggest issues, was like, yeah, it looks fantasy, but it doesn't have like that. It doesn't have that like chunky feel that you imagine with like the big like Iron Kingdom stuff.
Right. One of my favorite official Privateer Press quotes I ever got was talking to Doug Seacat at a panel, and he's like, "Look, nowhere in the Iron Kingdoms is the zipper provable to exist. At this point, we must presume that the button and buckle manufacturers have such a tight lobbying grip on the government that like this is the aesthetic of the universe."
That's one thing that I'm actually pretty thankful, that Matt Wilson is an artist at his heart, right? And he was the driving force behind bringing forth everything that we love. And and it's so rich. One of the things we did at MomCon that I thought was really creative, and I feel bad for people that are new in the hobby because they don't get to experience one of the coolest things about Warmachine, which is the rule books had so much good art in them, like so much good art.
Amounts, yeah.
And what Crump and I did is we're trying to come up with prizes for our convention, right? We're running our first convention. We're like, what are we going to give away? I don't know. So I had all of these old books because I'd bought them forever, and we were in I think it was the beginning of Mark III, right? So all the Mark II books are now not worth anything. So we cut all the art out of them and framed them, and we had framed art that we were giving away, and people absolutely went bonkers for it, right? Because they're just like, oh, I love this art, and you couldn't get it anymore because the books were out of print.
Yeah,
and now
every single page you shear out of Warmachine Apotheosis is a masterwork, and you're leaving 50% behind on the other side of the page.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So, just a long way to say that it's an artist-driven company and an artist-driven, I guess, an artist-driven world, and we all benefit from that, and it makes me a little sad to think that those days are kind of gone, right? Because it's hard to get a rule book even these days. I mean, I know SFG is releasing a rule book, and good on them, and I imagine the art will be awesome in it, but it's not the same. We used to get 2 anthology books a year that was full of art. Yeah.
Well, consider this. It used to be an artist run company, and like honestly, if you ask people like some of their favorite Magic cards on art alone, they would wind up being Matt Wilson cards.
Like Dan. I'm just Dan.
I mean, one of my favorites was Dragon Mage.
Yeah. No, I make a joke. Dan was just a fish underneath the water, and it was a stupid card. And people used to troll Matt Wilson about it. So yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
Wait, anyways, the Steamforge guys are, if you look back particularly on Guild Ball, this was also an aesthetic, like the aesthetics drove a lot of the imaginative engagement with the universe also. That they're publishing a rule book with new original artwork. Like, I've been dying for a world map for the longest time, so I'm hyped for this. But yes, Fallen Angel is Matt Wilson. Soul Collector is Matt Wilson. There's too many to name. Anyways, the visuals of the setting are so crucial for getting into it. And I mean, this artwork does exist now in digital format. It can be found. And Steamforged is putting a lot of the backlog into publication. Like aesthetically jiving with the universe is like, to a certain level, archaeology. I'm sorry, like I had a million more questions for you, Paul, and like the terrain stuff we only just started to touch on. But I would love to have you back on, because I'm a massive Iron Kingdoms lore head, but I basically stopped keeping up since like post the claiming. Like, I followed some of it for Iron Kingdoms Requiem, and you've been really attentive to the Mark IV lore. I have not. I would love to have a second discussion, like just diving into the world of the Iron Kingdoms here, and like I mean, I guess we're sitting on like 2 minutes before time, roughly. What do you find in the recent Iron Kingdoms time frame? What gets your brain juices firing most that you haven't explored on a table yet?
I mean, for me personally, it's just what locations do we know about that we're now we're going back to. So I think there was a Nicane story that she ended up going back to. Is it Rule? I'm trying to remember. Rule is the dwarves, right? I want to say they went to like a Rule mine, and that's where like she ended up like running into like Cephalix like inside there, and it's just like, oh, what are the dwarves up to right now? And like that's kind of like where like our minds go like for like those narratives, right? It's like, hey, Circle is gone right now. Like,
Mhm.
what's going on with the Devourer's Worm? It's like, what's going on with all the ley lines right now? I mean, that's what I personally like. It's like the
Yeah.
what else is like that we're not even exploring, or we're not even thinking about.
Right.
That's probably the best place.
Yeah, the civilizational abandonware, or where hasn't the camera been focused lately?
Mm-hmm.
That's oh man, that's thrilling stuff. And I mean, I really enjoy about Nova this year. You know, not only was it an eminently playable table, not only did a lot of people walk away with fantastic experiences, but you know, it was you know, a creative filling in of the gaps in a way that, like, again, for me as a spectator, I was not at Nova, I found immensely fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the things I personally like, is that when you're not, I like the creative freedom that comes along with it. It's just like, just do something that's fun. Like, it doesn't matter
Yeah,
if it's actually
yeah.
lore accurate or not. It's like, you know, like the Marvel with all the multiverses, right? Like, this exists in the Iron Games multiverse somewhere, right? That this ended up happening, or maybe it didn't happen, whatever. But
Yeah.
again, as long as the players have something fun to go talk about, and so it's like, oh man, did you see like when the party came out? Like, oh, it's like so huge. It's cool. It's nice.
Jay Beatnik is getting into the most obscure stuff, by the way. What's up with Beamoth and their Menoth worshipping colossal sized giant kingdom? That's some obscure stuff right there.
I don't know.
So, true story. Did you guys know that at Gen Con they used to run a costume contest?
I
For Private
was
Tier
thinking
Best?
it would be so neat if they ended up starting doing that right now. Like, you need more art so we know like what to look at. But I mean, it'd be really cool to see people like dressed up as like Orgoth, and like, you know, the like, especially Old Umbry. Old Umbry would be so cool to see like live in person.
Yeah.
All right. Can you guys guess who I would dress up as, just for fun? Old heads of the old show might have an idea. No guesses, huh?
Is it Armies of Legend, or is it a Mark IV?
It is an armies. It is a solo of legend.
Solo of legend. I was gonna ask if you made Crump and Lance and Keith carry you around on a palanquin, but
what are you calling me fat again? You saying I'm Rashad? That's terrible. No.
Is it Signar?
Nope.
Okay. I was like thinking
So I don't know how it came up, but I started talking about a fat iris, and somebody. I don't have the art anymore, but somebody a listener from the show drew me as Iris, and made like a little anime picture of it, and it was hilarious. So if there's ever another contest, I might dress up as Iris. I don't know if I'm brave enough to do that, but
are you going to have the tattoos going across your belly?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Paul, are you worried that next year's Nova narrative will not top this year's?
Oh gosh, that's the problem with sequels, right? It's like, oh, how you end up topping it, but it's going to be fun regardless. Whatever we end up doing, hopefully it'll be, you know, everyone will be there for a good time. So I don't know what the next narrative is going to go and be. I don't know what the story is going to go be, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, you're not going to spoil it now, guys. Relax. No, it's not going to be Barnabas 4, I promise. Get out of here, Beatnik.
Yeah, it's got to do the what is it, Gurren Lagann, where they just get like bigger and bigger. All right, so it's the Iron King, so now it's like, it has to be the solar system, whatever.
No, I'm telling you, I want Butcher in a story, man.
You know, that was I was tempted not to make the analogy. As like, sometimes you get so serious that you have to make End of Evangelion, and in order to blow off steam, you make a Fooly Cooly, and it turns out like the Fooly Cooly is also choice.
Can we try English? The journey to be mouth. Actually, an Arcane themed narrative event would be pretty cool.
On the threshold of the city of man.
Uh-huh.
That, oh man. All right. So John and I are ready to spiral off on this, but you have the Omegas, the tablets that the Testament wields, like
Yep.
back in their proper place after he rejoins his creator, and you're fighting like maybe the Defiers and maybe Infernals. Oh man.
I'm just like thinking right now, what are we gonna go do for next year? I'm like, I wonder what's going on in Seoul right now, or Seoul.
Oh yeah. In the lands of the Protectorate. By the way, the current world map and the fact that, like, my assumption was that the Protectorate had been essentially reintegrated by the Kingdom of Signar, but it still exists as an independent nation state was mind blowing to me.
Oh, Protectorate is coming. I don't have any confirmation of it, except for like,
I don't have any proof, but faith is about belief in that which is unseen.
That's fun.
Correct. And my faith will not be challenged. I have faith in the Protectorate and the return. And honestly, Matt Wilson was funny because I just was like, come on, bring me back Protectorate. And he said something like, well, we'd be crazy not to think about it, right? I'm like, that's such a Matt Hart answer. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, we have come to the end of our time. And again, friendly reminder, because I remind everybody every week, if we get to 500 likes, we'll add a third hour. I hope you guys had fun. I had a good time.
I had a phenomenal time. This was immensely intriguing for like somebody on that like competitive, focus, like putting my grind set in. It was such a delight to hear you take joy, Paul, in the setting and in the world and even in the play of the game. That like, I felt like it was like December of 2003 again, and I was just getting into the game for the first time.
Yeah. Well, John, Alex, I really appreciate you having me on to be able to go talk shop. Like, again, whether it's like terrain, lore, narrative stuff, I'm always happy to help. I think we've already said that the links to all these different primers that we made will be available to the people. So I'd be happy to like have anybody go and take a look at them. You want to go run your own God Barnabas scenario, go for it. You want to make it better, like it's yours, like have fun with it. And don't be afraid of trying something new. Like make something yourself. What sounds cool to you? Like run it. It sounds like fun.
And if you're in the Tried and True Discord, I will actually go ahead and figure out how to dump the resource link in there now too, so that you can find it and peruse and create and invite people to have fun again in this hobby that we all share.
I agree. And also, if the game grows enough, maybe we'll get an anime in the world of the Iron Kingdoms.
I thought about this for a long time, is that Warmachine would make the perfect sports anime, like competitive circuit Warmachine. Like you have no idea how seen I felt when Pokemon Sword and Shield came out and the entire narrative was basically about being a traveling Warmachine player, but with like cute little critters.
That's funny. No, I want like a true, like a Trigun that's set in the Iron Kingdoms, That'd be so cool. Make it happen, Steamforge Games. But don't lose sight. Make sure the game stays great. So, All right. Next week, I think we're having the Charlie Foster on. He's going to tell a bunch of old school stories and talk about a lot of the new painting tools. So we talked about how painting has actually you can get much better results with much less work these days because there's a lot of new tools out there that maybe you don't know about. I still can't paint because I have no artistic talent, but that's an old story.
Speed paints are so good for that. I'll tell you what.
All right. Peace and love, everyone. We'll talk soon. Yeah, Charlie's the dude. Charlie and I have a lot of good stories. I'm going to make Charlie tell the story about the little Chinese restaurant in Des Moines where it was more entertaining to watch the lady take orders because it was like a one-man show. She ran a little restaurant by herself. And if you went to order, she'd be like, okay, what you want? and you'd be like, okay, when you decide you come back next, and he tells it much better, and it's real funny. So, okay, we'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.